Hey, welcome back to Photography for the Rest of Us, a place for people who just love the art of photography. I'm Carrie, and this is week 2, day 4 of our Learn Photo Challenge. Guys, we are making it through week 2, and you guys are doing the work. We are seeing such amazing photos and creativity out of you guys. I love having you guys try new techniques. I love seeing that you're doing that. I'm really impressed. Keep it up. You guys are fantastic. Okay, today's prompt is water. And water is, I could see it being tricky for some people, right? Water is, maybe you don't live by an ocean and you're like, how am I supposed to go take pictures of the beach, right? I want you to understand that the reason this was chosen is because it's a broad open category. And it's something that I can show you a cool little technique with, which I like being able to do. So our prompt is water, and our theme for the week again is shutter speed. So I want you to keep in mind different ways you can use shutter speed to show water. Now, whether that's stopping the spray of a hose because you live somewhere that's doesn't have frozen water falling from the sky, like right now in my house. Awesome if you want to interpret it as ice, maybe. I'm not sure how you could get shutter speed with that, but check it out, I wanna see. Or a really common way to do this is to slow down your shutter speed, do a nice long exposure, and get that creamy, smooth, beautiful water that we see for those beautiful oceanscape photos with the smooth, creamy water, or the waterfalls that are of nice flow coming over. So I want to talk to you guys about how to do that. And okay, so I just kind of gave you the big thing, right? Long shutter speed with those nice, smooth, creamy waterfalls, like the cover photo, this one. I have some behind the scenes pictures for this one for you guys for a second. It's not nearly as pretty as you think it is. So what I want to do is kind of talk to you guys about the technique of getting this and some tips and tricks, and we're going to talk a little bit about filters. But again, I want to really stress here that you do not have to do a slow shutter speed for this challenge. It's anything water with either a fast or a slow, right? I want to see some form of movement, and water was a great way to do movement, right? So, okay, so let's talk about this waterfall picture. Now, this is the photo that was the cover photo, and I have some other photos to show you guys, ideas in that, but this was the cover photo. And this is actually taken here in Kansas. There aren't waterfalls in Kansas. I looked up places to go walking near my house, and I live outside of Kansas City, and they said, oh, Angel Falls, you should go to Angel Falls. And I'm like, oh, okay, I have seen Angel Falls, places called Angel Falls all over the world, right? Usually pretty good, epic, right? Angel falling from heaven kind of thing. So this is what it looked like in reality. And honestly, the photo makes it look bigger than it is. Imagine a little bit taller step than the steps in your house. It was pretty small. I'm not sure how angelic it was. But, I took it as a challenge. So I was like, all right, I hauled my gear out here. Let's try and take some great photos, or at least a great photo, right? And this is the one that I got. Now, the challenge to this nice, slow, creamy water look that I got in this shot, and what most people go for with waterscapes and with waterfalls, is that you want a really long shutter speed, which is why frequently when you see those pictures, they're either done first thing in the morning, really early, or they're done during blue hour at sunset, before the sun has really gotten up in the sky. And the reason for that is that if you want a really long shutter speed, you don't need very much light, right? You need it to be as dark as possible. Well, it's not always possible to just shoot really early in the morning or really late at night. And that's where filters come in. So we're gonna talk about filters. This is probably the world's most brief overview of filters, but I just wanted to touch base with this. So filters are basically a dark, I'm pulling one out, a dark piece of glass or plastic that you hold in front of your lens. I don't think I have a flashlight here to shine the light through, that you hold in front of your lens that can darken down what your camera sees, okay? So there's a whole lot of different types of filters, so let's go over that real fast, okay? Typically with landscape photography, people use neutral density filters, which is like this one I just showed you, right? Hold on. See if we can do it with my cell phone flashlight. What do you think? This is professional here. See how the light is coming through it? This is a 64 neutral density filter, which means it's like super duper dark, okay? Like that's the point, is it's super duper dark. But this is the filter that I use to get that shot because, as you can see in my cell phone shot, it was daytime. I think it was like 1 in the afternoon. Like we were just going out for a walk with the family. I wasn't trying to get anything epic particularly. It was just for fun. So neutral density filters are typically what landscape photographers kind of start with. Really their whole goal is to let less light into your camera so you can extend your shutter time, right? And some of them extend it for like 20 minutes, you know, like really, really long. This was a 30-second exposure. So for this setting, for this image specifically in this situation, I was at f22, which is as closed down as that lens could get. I had my shutter speed set at 30 seconds, and my ISO was also as low as it could get. I believe it was at 64 because that's the lowest my camera gets. If yours goes to 100, then that's your lowest, and that's just where you're at. And then on top of that, I used my neutral density filter. Now you might notice this one's square. Usually landscape photographers do use square filters. And what you do is you get a holder that attaches to the front of your lens, and then the filter just goes in front of it. Now, you can buy all sorts of types of filters, right? And all different brands at all different price points. And this is one of those things in photography where like paying the more money typically does, like not the top, like you don't have to go crazy level, but paying a little bit more money typically does actually help. This is a like a starter kit that I got from somebody at some point in time that has like the cheap little ones in there. And this one's fine. This is a gradiated filter. See, I haven't even opened this. This is a gradiated filter. As you can see, it's darker on the bottom and gets lighter at the top. These are great for like, if you do this way, for like sunsets and that, because the sun is brighter on the top and then you don't want it to be covering the bottom, you know, of your landscape because there isn't as much sun hitting that. So that's what a gradiated filter is for. And these are great little kits to start with. They come with these little things and you have to slide the filter in and it never moves as smoothly and I always drop it and that. So for me personally, I finally bit the bullet, and while I'm not by any means a landscape photographer, I bit the bullet and I did buy some like higher end expensive ones. I use, I'm gonna say I'm wrong, so I'm just gonna hold it up. Marumi filters. They're a Japanese brand. I was living in Japan. They sold me because they're magnetic and I don't have to slide anything in. I can just pop it on and they can stack. I am not saying or endorsing this brand specifically, though I do very much like it. It is also pricey, but the quality is definitely there and I have had no complaints about these. I am not an affiliate. I'm just saying these are what I ask, or these are what I use because I always get asked, okay? Okay, so neutral density means no color change to your photo. You're just getting less light in, and you can get different stops of these. So sometimes they're way dark and sometimes they're a little lighter, and it just depends. I went with the way darker one because I tend to shoot at any time of day. So this gives me the option of like noontime sun, okay? All right, another option is, like I said, a gradiated, oh, this one's not the gradiated, hold on. Oh. Is a gradiated filter, okay? And the reason these are big rectangles, right, is that I can move where the gradation is. So if I want it to be a little bit more or a little bit less, I can move it up and down so that it lines up exactly where my horizon line is for my composition, which is nice. But a gradiated filter is probably like the next thing if you're really into landscape photography and you want to get filters that you want to look at. But these are nice. And then another one that is kind of fun, is this, and what these ones do is they're a reverse gradiated one. So I don't know if you can see, but see how it's lighter on the top and then gets darker and then is lighter again? These ones are made specifically for sunrise and sunset when the sun is right on the horizon line so that you can get a better composition. Now, why do we need filters? Why do filters work, right? So if we go back to our basics of photography and our dynamic range of like how much bright to dark your camera can see, the filter helps make it so that your camera can, like everything, it compresses the scene and makes everything in the same range. Because the thing is that the sensors in our camera can't see as much of a dynamic range as our eyeballs can see. Our eyeballs can see this much from white to black, right? All of the grays in between. And our cameras can see like this much. And like beginner level cameras can see like this much, right? And that's really where you see the full frame difference. It isn't, I'm not a landscape photographer. Carrie, I don't really want to go take pictures of landscapes all the time, but sometimes I, might want to take one. And do I use it for anything else? So this is my starter recommendation for a filter if you want to purchase one at some point. Like I said, there is no reason that you need to purchase one, but if you want to play with it, if I can open the case, this is what I would recommend, especially if you're normally a portrait photographer, because these work really well for that situation as well. But this is a variable neutral density filter. So if I turn this, it gets lighter and darker, right? So that means that I can put this on my lens and I can say, okay, I want it this dark, right? To darken down my scene to take my shot. Okay, so why is that helpful for portraits? Well, if you are maybe taking a portrait in the noonday sun and you want to get that nice creamy bokeh behind your subject, but you can't stop or you can't open up your aperture that far because it's really, really bright out, and you want to have nice smooth lighting, so you're using off-camera flash, this is a workaround for that. You can put a neutral density filter on the end of your lens. You can stop down so that it's nice and dark and you get that nice creamy background that you're looking for and the right exposure for your background. And then you pop your off-camera flash in at your subject. And honestly, that's what you see a lot of times in like the magazine shoots and that kind of stuff, is using that technique. But it absolutely works for waterfalls and that kind of stuff if you're not looking to be like a full-time landscape photographer. You just want to take pretty pictures of waterfalls sometimes. So here's a couple of pictures that are water inspired that I've taken for you guys to see at different shutter speeds, different situations, different amounts of light. So they're kind of fun. And how would you do this if you didn't have a filter and you don't want to run out and buy one, which I'm totally good with, because filters can be expensive if you're getting like a high quality one, which is what you want, because some of them have a little bit of a color cast and that, like, it's better to just spend a little bit of money on one and have just a real good quality one. And I don't say that very often. I like the cheap stuff. But the best way to cope with that, if you want to try and go take one of those creamy water pictures and you do live somewhere near like a little tiny waterfall like me, or an ocean or something like that, is to shoot, like I said, at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, and then you stop down your aperture so you have the least amount of light coming in possible. Bring your ISO down as low as it'll go on your camera, and then extend the shutter speed for as long as possible. If the water is moving fairly quickly, then you don't need as long of a shutter speed. If it's moving like pretty slow, like my little waterfall water step thing was, then you need a longer shutter speed to get that creamy look. And the longer it is, the creamier it gets, because all you're doing is photographing the movement of the water, and that's what that blur is. Really, it's not like the water got creamy, it's the blur of the water moving. Does that make sense? Okay, again, you can totally shoot with a faster shutter speed and go completely different direction on this one. It doesn't have to be this technique, but this is a fun one, so why not? As always, please share your images on Instagram with #LearnPhotoChallenge and #photos for the rest of us so that I can see them. Put them in the Learn Facebook group. The link is below on that thread for week 2, day 4. And be sure to like the video, comment below, and subscribe if you haven't already, you guys. Come on, like, I know most of you have, but there's a few holdouts probably in there. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the next challenge. Bye.